I really like animation, a lot, and I don't care where it comes from. Maybe I'm drawn to it because I like to, well, draw. But whatever it is, there's a grip on me, and that's only gotten stronger as I've gotten older. I watch a lot of animation, but there's one series in particular that will always have a special place in my heart. Maybe you've watched the movie, and in that case, I'm really sorry. But we all ignore that. So moving on. When I was a kid, we had all 3 seasons of it on a DVD. But since I was a stupid kid and I didn't know how to take care of things, they got scratched. And if you've ever used a DVD, you know what that means. While I was watching, the show would jump forward through entire story arcs, or just repeat itself, which meant I was in an infinite loop of the show. Now that I think about it, it actually doesn't sound that bad. And it wasn't. When I think back, I remember the show being way longer than it actually is. And when I rewatched it properly, I was actually surprised by how quickly things happened. And now I actually wish it was that long, as there's something about the show that I haven't seen anywhere else. And I think I can boil those traits down to 3 key reasons. For a start, I'm not going to do any kind of recap, and if you are curious about the story setup, I'd recommend the show's actual intro. It's like a minute long and it's famously good. Now then, let's get started. Also, before I start, there will be some spoilers, but none of them should ruin the series if you haven't seen it yet.
Reason 1: World building.
Usually don't notice world building while watching something, but it's there. And if anything, you more notice the lack of it. Is that it's really hard to give a made-up world culture and history. But without those things, the world feels fake, like paper on a stick. Avatar gets around this issue by plagiarizing, taking inspiration from real cultures. And since each elemental tribe is supposed to be unique, they all take from different sources. This inspiration is why Avatar's world feels so real, since most of it is clearly inspired by things that exist in our own world. And it's not just the world design. The bending itself isn't just people wagging their hands everywhere, except when it is, but actually takes inspiration from real martial arts, like Tai Chi for waterbending and Hung Gar for earthbending, as well as martial arts movies, which the creators cite as influential. Here they are specifically. I'm not even going to try to list all the real world influences in Avatar, because I have to actually make this video and I would like to sleep eventually. But basically what I'm trying to say is the world of Avatar feels more authentic, because it takes inspiration from real cultures, and I think that's cool and helps the world feel more lived in. I mean, it's pretty impressive that I can honestly say that Avatar is a consistent 3-dimensional world, when it also has like flying cows, badger moles, and lion, turtle, rocks. Okay.
Reason 2: Characters.
At first, Avatar's characters are pretty simple, and the motivations don't really change, and honestly, they're pretty stagnant for the first season. But if you keep with it, you'll find some of the most likable characters with arcs that span over multiple seasons. The show isn't like, I don't know, SpongeBob or other kid shows where the characters never change. Some really impactful shit happens, and having lasting effects on the character. When someone dies, the characters don't move on in the next episode. It actually impacts them like 30 episodes later, when even the audience has completely forgotten it happened. Or when a character is faced with an intense moral dilemma, there is no right or wrong answer, just what they decide to do and how that impacts and changes the plot on the whole. The themes the series deals with are relatable to the audience and 100% went over the kids' heads, because it definitely went over mine. But when you go through the series, you notice these things, and no character represents this as well as Zuko. Everyone who has seen Avatar likes Zuko. Even if you don't like the show, you probably still like Zuko, because his character somehow can do a complete 180 from the beginning to the end and doesn't feel forced or unearned, and that's because it's gradual. We spend 2 seasons building up Zuko, losing faith in his government and his father, and how his uncle can guide him to not make the same mistakes he had. And when you think his arc is going to end, they actually throw a curveball and he goes in the completely wrong direction. And when Zuko realizes he's made a mistake, it takes like half a season for him to fix that mistake. That's what I was trying to illustrate before. All actions have consequences. If there is a sore point as far as characters go, it has to be the Fire Lord himself. As far as villains are concerned, he's pretty one-dimensional and is basically just pure evil and nothing more than a mustache twirling villain. But I would argue that he isn't actually supposed to be a character. He's a symbol that represents the Fire Nation as a whole. He isn't complex because the Fire Nation's not complex, and it's much easier to root for the main characters and get behind the goal from day one if there's no sympathy that you can have for the villain. That's why when he is ultimately defeated, we feel as if the story has been concluded in a satisfying way, because to the viewer, he is the villain. He is the Fire Nation, and when he loses, they lose. You don't have to question it. I don't really have time to go into depth about Iroh, but he is an amazing character, and he honestly carries the show at times. There's a reason Trees from the Vine has such an intense effect on people when they first watch it and when they rewatch it, but please just don't ask me to watch it. Please.
Reason 3: Animation and action.
I could probably just say the animation is really good, and honestly, that sums it up enough, but I can go more in depth. Avatar came out in 2005 and somehow still looks way better than basically anything else made in the West since, and the few that can possibly compare were made by the same studio with the same incredibly talented staff. Honestly, I can't praise how talented this team is. The series has a progression that by the end of it looks way more like an anime than a western cartoon, and the art style lends itself really well to the comedic moments with how expressive the characters are. But when the sakuga, which is a term in the anime community for when the animation has a noticeable bump in quality, hits in the show, holy shit, it hits hard. But it's not just the high quality of the animation that gets that hype going. If that was true, anytime a company pushes the CGI button, it would be insane instead of pretty lifeless and dull. What made Avatar so special then, and still to this day, is that those hype moments are paired with emotional beats that we the audience can actually feel. When Aang turns into a bloody kaiju to fend off a fleet and finally accepts his destiny, we feel that shit. When Katara nearly kills the person who ruined her life, we feel that shit. Zuko jumps in front of a lightning bolt in slow motion with all these insane effects going on at once, showing that he can finally put others in front of his own dreams. We feel that shit. I might have a monkey brain, but I can notice how much more I feel when these happen because I'm invested in the characters, and the series uses those connections to get me hyped beyond what is probably good for my health. I'm not going to act like the show is for everyone, and the first season can be a bit of a drag from all the filler and the unnecessary episodes, but if you are at all intrigued by this series, I implore you to stick with it, as there really is nothing quite like it. Thanks for watching. See you sometime.